How many eliminations do you think your unit has carried out over the last few years?
It's many. It's many. I think with my colleagues, around 8. But it's not even a subject to address.
Since I was employed, I've killed over 50.
And does that make you proud?
Definitely, I do become proud because I've eliminated some problems.
Day in, day out, you hear of eliminating suspects. We have the police itself. We have special units like GSU. So in the total, you can see about almost 500.
A year?
Yeah.
Extrajudicial killings have been happening at an alarming rate. People have now considered them as just any other act. They've become so normal, also to speak, such that the government does not feel in any way that this is something we need to address. We know for a fact because we see those killings happening within our communities almost on a daily basis.
This sense of impunity means that extrajudicial killings are not limited to suspected Islamic militants. The mountain town of Nyeri is an hour's drive from the capital, Nairobi. In April 2014, 5 young people were watching football in a local bar. As they left, witnesses reported an altercation with police. The group were arrested and driven away.
Saa 12 hapo jirani yangu nikasikia redio ikatangaza kuna msichana kuna watu walipatikana, msichana akiwa hata na matope kama amewekwa juu ya miti. Mimi mara moja nikasikia mwili yangu imekatika.
At her daughter's feet were the bodies of 4 young boys shot in the head.
Wangu alikuwa na alama hapa, ilikuwa aud hapa na ingine hapa, zilikuwa 2 hapa na hapa.
Alikuwa na hapa na hapa, alafu sijui kama mdomo alikuwa, kwa sababu alikuwa anatoa ile damu na mapua na mdomo.
The 2 boys were lying there. 2 other boys were lying here.
The families are convinced that the police executed their children and are left with one haunting question.
Nikauliza ni kwa nini tu, naweza kutaka tu kujua. Ninaweza kutaka tu nijue haki. Ndugu yake alikuwa analia, sema ndugu yangu hata hajakaa mwaka tu nje, amekaa miezi.
Kuna maswali mingi sana. Walikufa nini? Au watoto walikufa nini?
They were taken from a club. My research has indicated that they actually were taken to a police station and then not booked in, taken to a forest and shot dead.
The police had a great liking of the forests. They would often take people out there in order to shoot them.
Philip Alston is the author of a United Nations report on extrajudicial killings in Kenya. It followed hundreds of deaths after the elections in 2007. His investigation delivered a damning indictment of the Kenyan police.
They were not what one might call discriminating. A lot of the killings were simply casual, accidental, as it were. Someone that you arrest, someone who won't pay a bribe, someone who gets in the way of a cop who's running a bar or something like that. Just dispose of the people.
He found that the police would frequently respond with unlawful force.
The conclusion I reached was that killing was widespread, that it was basically part of the way in which the police force operated, that it wasn't just tolerated by the senior police but directed by them.
The UN investigation did little to change the culture of the police in Kenya, and that same force now has a role in Kenya's war with Al-Shabaab.
The current war that Kenya is involved in gives all of the security agencies the blanket cover that they are doing this because of that war. Now that blanket cover excuses any explanation at all, and it is a very dangerous thing for ordinary citizens. Very dangerous indeed.
A fortnight after the killings of the 5 young people in Nyeri, security sources claimed in the media that the victims had links to the Somali militant group Al-Shabaab.
I don't think anajua mambo ya Al-Shabaab.
Aliwahi enda Somali?
Hapana, hajawahi enda. Amekaa huku miaka yote.
That is a scapegoat. To those who did the action, they are trying to escape by saying that they went to Somalia and such things.
Sasa wako na wakinge au watoto kile kimewaua ni Al-Shabaab, lakini hakuna kitu kama hiyo.
It appears any victim of police abuse can be labelled a terrorist, even the one shot by accident.
You may shoot and shoot the wrong person. Do you wait to be taken to court to be jailed? Okay, you never wanted to kill that person, but accidentally you have done it. What are you going to do? The person is gone. You will not bring him back.
Do you plant evidence sometimes?
Yeah. Some do place some kind of evidence by placing some pistols, guns beside them once they have been killed.
Police killings are rarely independently investigated in Kenya. We left Nairobi to meet a woman who's in hiding after calling for an inquiry into the killing of her husband by the police. Rahima Nero's husband was arrested as a suspected Al-Shabaab insurgent. Salim Nero was taken back to their home, handcuffed and surrounded by police.
Move! Akaingia na polisi ndani. Wakaanza kunipiga, wakanipiga paka nikafura upande huu. Walipomaliza hapo, wakanichukua na mtoto wangu, wakaniambia nikae sitting. Nikakaa hapo, wakaanza kuniuliza maswali, sikujua wafanya nini ndani. Walipomaliza hapo, nikasikia milio ya risasi ndani. Walipomuua, wakaniambia tu ndio kaone mume wako tumuua.
The police later claimed Salim Nero had been armed and that he and another suspect had been killed during a shootout.
Walidai kuwa wamemkuta na bunduki ndani ya nyumba, na haikuwa hivyo. Alikuwa sina silaha ndani ya nyumba.
I can remember they were even shot in front of their family. They were targeted, identified, and eliminated.
When they say they were killed in self-defense, it's not true.
It's not true.
I would say that's standard operating procedure. The so-called shootout scenario where you set it up to make it look as though someone who you have executed was involved in a shootout with the police. And in order to do that, it's better to have a weapon that you've confiscated from somewhere else to leave beside the body.
The police will tell them that was a suspected terrorist. We found 1 gun and 2 rounds of ammunition, and that's it. You're already labeled as a suspected terrorist. And unfortunately, this is what the fight against terrorism is using now to further violate rights with impunity.
In 1998, 224 people were killed after a bomb destroyed the US Embassy in Kenya. A simultaneous attack on the US facility in Tanzania killed a further 10. For the first time, the world heard the names Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden. Since then, there has been a close relationship between Kenya and the West's global war on terror. Western countries have provided Kenya with hundreds of millions of dollars in counter-terrorism training and equipment. Since 2009, the US alone has provided over $125 million. Britain, the former colonial power, continues to aid the police using a portion of its £30 million overseas counter-terrorism budget.
We've seen them quite recently providing equipment. They have provided vehicles, we've seen them provided firearms, tactical firearms, and we've seen them even providing boats for the Border Patrol unit.
The death squads we spoke to had all received specialist military training from British officers.
Normally it takes 3 months. Once they have trained us, they take us to the field where we do practical work. It's the kind of movement you do make when you are at war.
The link between the British intelligence service and their Kenyan counterparts is at the core of this relationship.
The British are training the intelligence persons. We are getting very good training on how to conduct what we call the surveillance. So we are getting very, very advanced ways of getting information.
If we get any person in Kenya that is a threat to the security of the UK, then we need to pass over this information to the MI5 so that MI5 can come in and actually utilize that intelligence.
Israel also has strong intelligence links to Kenya. We have been leaked confidential police documents appearing to show Israeli intelligence that highlights threats to their interests in Kenya. Information like this is allowing Israel to exert growing influence over Kenya's counter-terrorism strategy.
There are some departments that are getting some training from the Israelis.
This secret document obtained by Al Jazeera reveals that Kenya and Israel have developed a close understanding on intelligence matters. Israel's foreign intelligence service Mossad is allowed to run safe houses and its own operations in the country, and in return, Israeli agents have exposed the activities of foreign intelligence networks to the Kenyans.
Initially we had Britain, the Israelites came in, but there was some kind of argument. They wanted to have GSU as a unit under the Israelites, but the British denied. However, the government is doing that secretly.
In terms of training, the GSU long ago moved away from predominantly British training towards Israeli training. Police have a sense, I think, that the Israelis understand their problems better than the Brits and other Europeans do, in the sense that the Israelis are themselves fighting an internal counterinsurgency. They understand what might be needed in such a war, and their attitude towards what you have to do is far more permissive and perhaps less rules-bound than are some others.
We have a lot in common, because I think that both for Israel and for Kenya, One of the main threats is from the radical Islam and mainly from the radical Islamic terror organizations that are active in this region.
This classified Mossad briefing was written after an assault by al-Shabaab militants on the Westgate shopping mall in Nairobi, which left 67 dead. It reveals concerns that Israel's assistance to Kenya's counter-terrorism units during the attack was leaked to the media, and it claims that al-Shabaab is planning further, more extreme violence in Kenya, including attacks on Western and Israeli targets.
You get some instructors from Israel. Is how to eliminate. Actually, he's one of the training.
They teach you how to eliminate people?
Yeah.
I think that the Kenyans, they have the authority and the right to run their own affairs. So if they decide to run a targeted killing operation, I don't think that we will condemn them.
A part of the prevention sometimes is to kill the terrorists before trial. This is a necessary option, not only legitimate.
We do not hide behind any walls and curtains. We use it in our fight against terror. It is a very effective tool.
The Israeli Foreign Office, however, told us, under no circumstances are eliminations part of any kind of training imparted by Israeli experts. The British Foreign Office said it is aware of the allegations of extrajudicial killings in Kenya, adding, "We take such allegations extremely seriously and raise concerns with the Kenyan authorities."
Do you think the British, who train and fund the ATPU and the GSU, know that you guys are eliminating terrorist targets?
They do.
How?
Once they give us the information, they know what they have told us. It is APCD. Mr. Jack is involved in such and such a kind of activity. Tomorrow is no longer there. We have worked. Definitely the report that you gave us has been worked on.
Are the British made aware of the elimination programs as well?
Yes, when these people come for their training, I believe that all this information is being passed to them.
Donors who are involved in supporting and providing equipment are also apparently not overseeing these operations properly, because again and again and again we are raising instances of serious abuses that would not be acceptable anywhere else.
And when people like Makaburi is killed or Abu Drogo, do the British ever come to your senior commanders and say,
no, they don't.
Stop.
Once they give you the training, that is all. They go back to their country and they leave us to do our work.
There are many in the intelligence and security community, including among British senior staff, who would argue that the front line is where the rough stuff happens, and maybe we just have to grin and bear it. The balance of security and foreign policy interests are such that Kenya is still viewed as a necessary ally in this region. And until that changes, we're going to have to swallow this stuff for the foreseeable future.
But could Western governments be held legally responsible for the actions of the men they trained?
The first person to get rid of is the leader.
We showed our interviews to the head of the International Bar Association.
Sometimes whether we go to eliminate or to spare this person.
It's clear, based on these interviews, that there's at least prima facie evidence to suggest that these third-party countries are involved, and therefore they all have a responsibility to investigate.
They are training the intelligence persons.
Members of the British government could even face charges at the International Criminal Court in The Hague.
I think absolutely could be a criminal investigation, because if there are individuals that are found to be not just training, but are actually found to have been directing, supervising, targeting individuals that in turn would be targeted in a killing, then there is a criminal responsibility.
We do share all this information.
I don't want to be very specific, but the government did it.
If they're arguing that perhaps they didn't know, they didn't have reason to know that these crimes were being committed, they now know.
After seeing our evidence, he believes that Western countries should reconsider their support of Kenya's police force.
We should stop providing any type of assistance or training to police units in Kenya until there's a clear change, a paradigm shift, if you will, in how the Kenyan authorities deal with suspects and with individuals that they consider to be dangerous to the state, and that does not include target killings.
In 2014, in response to the growing violence, 2 major tourist companies suspended holidays to Kenya. Despite the continuing loss of life and economic impact, there appears to be no change in strategy, either by the Kenyan government or the Western countries that support them.
I think we are not going to see an end of this. What will happen is that we are going to see more radicalization of the youth, because somebody somewhere will tell them, you see, Rogo died a martyr, Makaburi died a martyr fighting for the religion. So we are not going to see an end of this.
The killings of clerics like Makaburi and Abu Rogo have failed to quell the insurgency.
Waislamu hapa Kenya sisi tunadhalilishwa, tunauliwa, mashehe zetu wanauliwa, ndugu zetu mashababu ambao ni vijana wanauliwa. Sisi tukipata silaha tutapambana na wao kama vile wao wanavyotufanyia.
Do you actually believe that by eliminating these people, you are making this country safer? And the answer obviously is no. Terrorists want exactly that, that Kenyans are shot dead in cold blood.
Another generation could already be in the sights of the Kenyan authorities. The killing of Sheikh Abu Rogo was one of the first carried out by the Kenyan death squads. His son could be the next.
Naamini hata kama si leo, si miaka hii, lakini najua iko siku.
Actually, like that boy now, I'm sure he's on the spot. He may be in danger.
Mimi nasema ni recruiter wa vijana ndani ya Mombasa. Sasa wakiogopa itakuwa huo ni ujinga wao wenyewe. Maana mwanzo gaidi hana time ya kukaa kufanya biashara ya kuku.
If you were told to go and shoot a young boy like that, I mean, he's a young kid, what would you do?
Normally what happened to a young boy like that one? He's being killed in a way that he just disappears. He can be killed and thrown in the next forest, really be eaten and forgotten.